Hello, back again. Are you guilty? Am I guilty? You know, of course, we're all guilty of numerous things, multitude of offenses, things that sometimes the offense is only in the mind of the person we've offended. Uh, Sometimes we do offend people, unintentionally. It's just we don't even know we're doing it. But few of us exist, and I doubt anyone exists, that hasn't offended somebody at some time. Sometimes we intend to be offensive. Now, I years ago taken some psychological kind of test, or these all these tests. There's a test for everything. Um, that is a like in Cosmopolitan magazine. There's all these little questionnaires you answer, and they define you as something. And you're a ABC person, or a NZNality person, or whatever you might be, right? So, but I remember coming across something that defined me as a confrontational person. Now, I didn't think of myself at all as a confrontational person, because to me, a confrontational person would be certainly in your face and abusive or something like that. But I'm sorry, my nose itches. Uh, the more I thought about it, the more I realized, yes, I understand what it means. I'm a confrontational person. That is, if I see something that I think isn't right, I'm apt to stand up and do something about it. Now, I'm not likely to, if there's somebody, if a guy's walking down the street shooting people, I'm not going to go out and stand in the street and say, "Hey, drop your gun." That's not what I would do. But if I see things that, or hear things, or maybe I'm just asking, and people probably, there's not everything's not negative about it. Sometimes it can be negative, as anything can be. But I'm willing to talk to people who other people might not be willing to talk about. I'm willing to talk about subjects that other people might not be willing to talk about. And so some people find that sort of interesting, that I'm willing to talk about things. Uh, Now, but it comes across in different ways. When I was young, like about junior high age, uh, integration had only been happening for either this was the first or second, maybe third year integration. Couldn't have been any further along than that. And I had a situation where there was a guy named David in my class, and he happened to be a black kid. It wasn't important in general that he was a black kid, but in this circumstance, it might have had some standing for the circumstance. So, uh, and David could be sort of a moody kind of guy. He was a buddy, but he could be moody. And I remember one morning at the beginning of school, David, the teacher was doing the roll call, and she came to David's name. David was before me in alphabetically, so his name, we'll call him David Adams. So David, it came to his name, and David's response to David Adams was, "Yeah." Well, that offended my teacher for some reason. Now, it could have been, and I sensed that it had something to do with the fact that he was a black kid. But even regardless, because this was in the late '60s, so things aren't like they are weren't like they are today, and this was an older woman, an old teacher. So this was all very different for her. So she was anyway. She didn't like it. Whatever her motivation was, she didn't like it at all. And she said, "Okay, David, outside." And she took David outside and called the other teacher to witness, and they gave David a paddling. Well, that made me mad. My righteous indignation, you know, just welled up inside of me. And so she continued to call people's names. And when she got to my name, I was just too busy working on whatever I was working on my desk that I didn't hear her call my name. Mark Johnson? Okay, outside. So I got up and I walked outside with her. And she said, hands against the wall to paddle. And I said, "You're not paddling me." You know, I just was letting her know. Look here, just because you're in a bad mood this morning doesn't mean that people. No, there's today. If your kid went or or didn't pay you attention for one sentence, most people would go and just repeat themselves. But no, not in this. It's like we needed to do respond immediately for her. And so I didn't let her paddle me. Well, I didn't initially let her paddle me. I went down to the bathroom and hung out for a half hour or so. And I think they finally came in and said, "Hey, Mark, you're going to have to," I don't remember exactly, but it probably was, "We're going to call your parents if you don't take your paddling." So I thought it was better to take a paddling than to go home and then have my daddy give me a whipping, because that's what would have happened probably. So, and I don't know if I ever told my parents that that happened. I don't know, but anyway. So I was acting out of righteousness. I purposefully confronted her in a sort of a passive aggressive kind of way, but it was clear what I was doing in a sense. Now, she might not have comprehended that I was doing it on behalf of David Adams, but that's what I was doing. So, but sometimes, and I don't regret having to do that. I can take a paddling. I took a good few, but sometimes I regret what I have done. And I don't think I broke any laws in the offensive things I might have done. But in my youth, there were certainly things that I did that I'm not proud of at all. And occasionally there's things I do as an adult that I'm not proud of. A little bit quicker to apologize for those things. I immediately will in many respects if I do something that I'm aware of. And again, sometimes you're just not aware of what you're doing. You're thoughtless. I remember one time I was with one of my brothers at a conference, and we were going to, I'd met him at his hotel, and we were going out to get in the car, and this young woman came out, and she was all bubbly, and, "Hey, and, Dr. So-and-so," and he just ignored her. And I thought, my goodness, you're being ugly to that girl. Now, maybe this girl was sort of obnoxious and been coming up to him all the time and talking to him constantly, and he was, of course, giving me his time at the moment, and maybe he was just without saying it, letting her know that, hey, this isn't the time to talk. Maybe he'd been very gracious to her at other times, but he wasn't gracious at that moment. And so she might have been offended by that, right? So and maybe he didn't intend to offend her. He just might have been trying to focus on me instead of her. So those things can happen. So have you ever wished that you might be able to apologize to individuals or, for an offensive comment or action? Have you? Now, while I regret moral and ethical missteps that I might have made, for me, the most egregious things that bother me the most are the things that I've done that have been disrespectful to others. That eats away at me, and I would like to be able to apologize, and if I could find just the right time to apologize, or the right time and place to apologize, I'd be tempted to do so. But at the same time, and most of those are never going to come about because I don't live anywhere near these people, and et cetera, et cetera. Wouldn't know where to find most of them, whatever. But have you ever had somebody in a 12-step program apologize to you? This is what, as I think about, well, I'd like to apologize, but I've had somebody in a 12-step program apologize to me. And what was weird about that is that, well, the person apologized to me for wrongs that they had committed towards me. All great. Some of them I did not even remember. I mean, there's some that, well, once he mentioned it, I thought, oh yeah, I guess that did happen. Yeah. But it wasn't a traumatic. I've had enough traumatic things in life, but it wasn't one of those traumatic kind of things that happened, that stuck with me. So, that was sort of too bad. Here, the person is reminding me of things that I didn't even remember myself. So, is that really a positive thing? At the same time, there's big things that I remember very clearly, offenses that I'd experienced with a person that they didn't even talk about. Well, now, should I be offended that he's not even talking about the big offenses, the things that really offended me or really affected me? So, make an apology. Maybe it's best in most cases to let sleeping dogs lie, I think is the saying, right? But it is nonetheless important that we admit to ourselves and to God that we've done offensive things. We have to own up to those things. So whether we end up paying for it or not on earth, we have to own up for them. And the only way to do that is to be truthful. You have to be truthful with yourself. If it comes to the moment when there's a situation where you're accused, well, did you do it or not? Well, if you did it, you need to be truthful. If you didn't do it, that's another thing. Sometimes people do get accused of things that they didn't do. I've had crazy people accuse me of crazy things. It's hard to believe that they would even come up with nonsense, but crazy people do crazy things. That's their business. My business is to be truthful. You can't find truth without honesty. Lies, there's no place for lies when you're seeking truth. And if you're seeking truth inside yourself or in the world around you for eternity, then, you have to be truthful. So maybe there's somebody you want to apologize to. Maybe there's the right time to do it. But whether you ever get the chance to do it or not, the most important thing is that you're honest with yourself and you're honest with God. If you're seeking truth, seriously want to find truth, pray. I'm sure you'll find it. Have a good day.